Well, hello everybody. Angel and I are out to the cabin. She doesn't quite show up, I don't think, yet in this video. Um, just going to have lunch out here and 2 or 3 other little things that I want to do. It's not a camping overnight video. We came out I don't know, hour and a half or so ago, I guess, and started a fire in the wood stove, and the cabin warmed up very quickly today. It's not that cold out right now. It's 2 degrees Celsius outside. I think it only went down to -1 last night, but every night now for the last week or so the temperature has been dropping down below freezing. So definitely late autumn is here, and I don't know when the first real snowstorm might hit. I guess there's a possibility of some snow flurries tomorrow, but nothing that's supposed to amount to anything, thankfully. It's too early for it at this point in time, in my opinion anyway. I've got a little work to do before I can have this pizza for lunch. I came out here a few weeks ago, and I can show you this. I knew that I had a mouse. This roll of paper towels had some gnawing on it, and it was down on the floor. It had been knocked down on the floor somehow. So I was quite certain that I had a mouse. The cabin was built in 2012, 5 years ago. And this is the first evidence I've ever had of a mouse being able to get in here. The only place that I can think of where it must have come in, the gas stove, the little Coleman gas stove that I use, it runs on a barbecue tank, 20-pound barbecue propane tank, which is outside of the cabin. I didn't want that in here. So I drilled a hole in the floor for the gas. Well, it's not exactly a pipe, it's more like a hose. It's a rubberized gas hose that goes out and attaches to the tank. And the hole had to be fairly large, not so much for the hose. It isn't that big, but it has a large fitting on the end of it that attaches to the tank and is not removable. So it had to be large enough for that to go down through, and I've often wondered if a mouse could squeeze up through the extra space that's there. Well, one did. Let me show you what I just discovered. Well, the last time that I was out here and put another bit of bio brick in the stove to keep the fire going, I thought, well, I'll move the toast of the oven, the Coleman oven that works on top of the stove, over and have that ready for when I come back out. And I opened up the Coleman and look what I found. It has to be a very small mouse. There's no way for it to get in other than, you can see it here with stuff in the way or not, a very small hole there that my index finger just fits in. It had to come through there to get inside and constantly carry in shredded paper towel to make that nest. There isn't any creature here, as near as I can find out. It probably grew larger outside and can't get back in the cabin. I don't know. But anyway, I have brought out a mouse trap and put their favorite food in it, peanut butter. And I'll check it on a daily basis now to see if I catch any mice. But I have a cleanup job to do before I can start cooking lunch. Well, I hope you can hear me above the roar of the gas stove. I got it cleaned out, and I have the oven on there heating up. So far it's up to 425 degrees. I'd like it to go to 450. I don't know if it will or not. What I'm doing now is just some prep work on a few vegetables to go on my pizza. It's going to be a small pizza. The pizza stone in the oven is very small. The oven itself is very small. I couldn't do a full-size pizza in there. And yes, I washed my hands thoroughly after cleaning that up. I even used dishwashing detergent. Make sure I killed any possible germs that I came in contact with. Vegetarian pizza, so I just brought a selection of things from the house to put on it. I like a little onion, not a lot, a little onion on my pizza, some small piece of onion there. just sharpened this knife and it still isn't very sharp. They're a very cheap set of knives that I bought for the cabin. And they do not sharpen very well. I think all of these olives have pits in. No, but those two don't. They've got pimento in the center. Oops. Table obviously is not level, I guess. It's not working. Pit out of it somehow there. At least I think I'm going to. At the house I would just bash it with that knife, but it's on this table here that folds away. I'm not too certain of how much weight I can put on it. So anyway. I guess that's probably enough olives. Well, I'll bring you back and show you the pizza dough. I just checked the oven. It's up to 440, so it is getting closer to 450. The end of this particular video is a few clips of making this pizza dough, which I made a few days ago. And this particular piece has been frozen. I took it out of the freezer last night and put it in the refrigerator to let it thaw. The particular recipe that I used made enough dough for 3 large pizzas. I took one bit of the dough and cut it in half. To make a couple of small pizzas. Irregular shape, a little more rectangular than round, which is accidental but probably a good thing. My pizza stone is also rectangular. I'm just using a Botten pizza sauce, which I've managed to splash all over everything. Whether I need all of those vegetables or not for this small pizza. I did bring the second piece of dough out with me, so I may cook a second one and take it home with me when I go back. I like cold pizza almost as much as fresh pizza. I'm not using my own mozzarella. I haven't made mozzarella in a long time. Something I should do, I guess. Too busy making hard cheeses. Now, I would normally, in my oven at the house, cook a pizza, well, 15 minutes or longer. I don't like to bring one out. I don't mind the top gets a little scorched, but I don't like to bring one out with raw pizza dough. I want it well cooked. So I'll get this on my little peel and I'll show it going in the oven here. It looks done, maybe a little too done on the edges. I just had my 3-alarm fire warning,
I guess you can see a little smoke or steam coming off there. Some of the crust evidently had started to burn. It's a very sensitive smoke detector, which is a good thing in a small building like this. I prefer to let my pizza rest for, close to 10 minutes. I don't want to put molten cheese in my mouth, and they cut better after they have rested for a bit, so I'll bring you back when I start to eat this thing. Well, it's been about 10 minutes, so I will cut this up and see what it's like. Nice crispy crust, by the sounds of things anyway. Economizing on dishes here. I'm going to eat off the cutting board. Every dish that I dirty I have to take back to the house to wash, so. There. Get a piece with everything on it. Oh yeah, the crust is, cheese is good too. Crust is done all the way through. Dark in a few places on the bottom, but not really burnt. And good. I really like that pizza crust. I've used it a couple of times now, and it has a nice authentic pizzeria taste to it. So there'll be a link down below, of course, like I always do, if you're interested in making it. Well, I won't make you watch me eat my entire pizza here, but I'll bring you back for a couple of more things that I want to try. I grew my own chamomile. I've had it growing for a couple of 3 years in the, at least 3 years, I guess, in the hoop house. And this year it produced a lot of blossoms, so I saved as many as I could. I'm going to make my first cup of chamomile tea out of my own homegrown chamomile. And I think I've had a couple of comments about the rose hips that I showed in my last video on that monster bush out here that has all the rose hips on it, about if I ever used them in tea. So I've picked a few of them. I'm going to cut them in half and remove the seeds and add them to the tea. I don't know if that'll add any flavor or not, but they're rich in vitamin C, so it should improve the quality of the tea, if nothing else. And I'm going to try to see if I can pop any of my pink popcorn. If you're following my garden videos this summer, I grew for the first time popcorn. That's one of the little cobs there of pink popcorn. I've never tried it yet, and I've never removed or seen how easy or difficult it is to remove the kernels from the cob. That's the one that I think was mature, and I have this one that it hadn't gone pink, and the kernels are quite a bit smaller. I think I may try it separately. I don't think this one will pop. Maybe the other one won't, but I'm going to try it separately first, and just to see what happens with it. So I'll bring you back in a few minutes, and we'll do some of those things before we go back up to the house and make this pizza dough. I finished lunch, and I'm letting the fire die down in the stove. It's quite warm in here. It's 26 degrees Celsius, and that's warm for me. I don't usually keep my house anywhere near that warm. The kettle has got steam coming out of it. It's not a rolling boil, but it's plenty hot enough to make tea. And as you can see, Angel is stressed right out. I think she's bored silly. She says, "Let's go for a walk, Dad." We'll have to go for a walk after we finish the video. I'm going to try my herbal tea, chamomile and rose hips. I got this little gizmo, that's in the shot there, I guess it is, in Amsterdam. I've never seen anything like it over here. It's stainless steel, very, very fine, almost like gauze strainer, holes in the thing. And you use it to brew a single cup of tea with loose tea leaves, or I use a lot of green tea. I buy it as loose tea leaves, but it works with any kind of loose tea. I bought it in a street market, I guess, in Amsterdam a year and a half or so ago. And the lady who was selling them also sold all kinds of herbal teas, so I bought some of her herbal tea as well. The herbal teas were good, but this is a treasure. I don't know how much chamomile to use when you're using your own fresh chamomile. fresh in that it was grown this year anyway and dried. So I'm just going to put some in there. Don't have a lot anyway, so I'll probably use about half of what I've got here. And I decided not to bother taking the seeds out of the rose hips. They're fresh still. They haven't dried, and I'm just going to put some of those in, the little rose hips off of my giant rose bush. I don't expect that they will impart any flavor. I might be surprised and find that they do, but vitamin C will be added, I guess. I think that's probably enough. Just add water down in through the diffuser until it comes to the top. And it has this clever little cover to hold the heat in. And I'll let that steep for 5 minutes or so. I'll come back and we'll try it. I can see the screen over there, and I think I'm headless, but it's not me that we're looking at, I guess, this time. It's been steeping for about 5 minutes. A little more, a little less. And there is a pale, sort of greenish colored tea in the cup. I'll take the diffuser out and give this a try. Hot. Yeah. Has a very nice mild chamomile flavor. Like I said, I don't think I notice anything from the rose hips, but they're in there anyway. I like chamomile very much. Well, I will finish my tea and then I'll bring you back and we'll see if we can pop pink popcorn. I should say, I guess, that if you're expecting the popped popcorn to be pink, that's not what's going to happen. It takes its name from the color of the kernels, and they are, for the most part, pink, or a mauvish pink color or something like that. But I suspect once popped, if it does pop, it'll just be white popcorn like any popcorn. You'll see in a few minutes anyway. I'm still drinking my tea, but I thought I would make an attempt at getting some of these kernels off the cob. Boy, easier said than done. And these are the ones that I don't think are going to pop anyway. I thought you'd just rub them. Well, I am getting a few, I guess. Thought I'd just rub them in my hands and they would come off. But to a certain extent, that is working, but not very well. I don't need a lot of these anyway. It's the larger ones that I'm hoping will pop. I don't think this cob was... There we go. I guess once you get started, you can rub a row and get them. I'm sure that Mr. Rettenbacher there has a machine that does it. That's more than enough of those. I will give those a try and see if they work. Now to see if I have any more luck with these. The ones that I hope will pop. Well, if anything, well, starting. If anything, they're coming off harder than the other ones did. Growing your own popcorn creates a lot of work. If I could just find an area where I was getting them started. I can't find that area where they're coming from, I guess. Well, try this with a spoon or something. Get them started with a spoon. Yeah, that seems to be working. Much larger than the ones that I'm saying are not mature. I had 2 cobs out here. I left them out here drying. And I had 2 cobs that looked fairly decent, as in the kernels looked like they were mature. For some reason they developed white mold, not all over the cob. But anyway, I didn't want to eat it. I threw them in the fire, in the stove, and there was some popping. Not like if you were popping popcorn, but I could hear some popping happening in there, so I think some of those did pop. These are the ones that I'm hopeful will actually pop, so we'll try the other ones first and then move on to these. Got the fire going, as you no doubt can hear. I'll add a little vegetable oil to the pot. I know this pot looks like one of those expensive pots with the glass top. Trust me, it isn't. A very cheap knockoff. And here go the seeds that I don't think are going to pop anyway, but we'll see. I'll bring you back in a second or two here when I see something pop or not pop, but right now it's still heating up. Oh, there have been a couple of the kernels pop. Boom, there goes another one. That was surprising because I really thought that those weren't mature enough. Not getting a lot of popping, mind you, but we've had 2 or 3. I think that's going to be about it. Yeah, they're burning, not off will go my smoke detector any second now. Well, I will dispose of those and come back with the pink ones. Here goes nothing with my pink popcorn. Problem is it's going to burn quite easily because this cheap pot is very thin on the bottom. I just heard some, yeah, one pop. There they go, they're popping. Can't see what's happening in there because it's steaming up, isn't it? Well, once again, nothing successful. Maybe they aren't dry enough. A few of the kernels popped and the rest just going to sit there and burn, I guess. So much for pink popcorn. At least at this stage. I'll let them dehydrate for another week or two, just naturally at room temperature, and try them again. Maybe they're just not dry enough. Well, that concludes the part of this video from the cabin. And now if you want to know how to make that pizza dough, the next few segments are back at the house making the pizza dough. Well, we're back at the house to make the pizza dough. The recipe that I'm using, it took me a while to find one, it's all in weights, or most of it's in weights. It says a few things in teaspoons here, but in metric weights. I suppose you can go to a conversion table and find out what that is in pounds and ounces, or maybe even in cups. But kitchen scales are not at all expensive now. The digital model, looking around, oh, here's mine right here looking in front of me. In Canada, I bought that at Canadian Tire, and I've had it for a number of years. It will weigh either in ounces or in grams, and they're less than $20. You get such a much better product, especially with breads, if you're weighing the ingredients, because if you're using cups when you're measuring oat flour, well, some cups are more compacted than others, and you just never get anything that's consistent. So This recipe is quite forgiving. I'll put a link below like I always do. And I like the way they have this arranged. A few pages in, I printed it. It's 7 pages printed, and it's a simple process. Most of that is pictures that they've put up. But it gives you the ingredients that you would require to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 pizzas, and they have varying weights. I'm going with a recipe that will make 3, and what they mean by 3 pizzas is 3 average large pizzas. I will probably cut those in half and make 6 small ones, especially as you've seen out in the cabin. The oven out there won't hold large, so let's get started. That's enough of me yapping on. 500 grams of bread flour. And to that you add a teaspoon of sugar and a teaspoon of salt. They're both in that one little measure there. And 7 grams of, I'm using the quick acting instant yeast, but 7 grams of a dry yeast. And just combine those a bit. And to that you add 30 milliliters of extra virgin olive oil. And I'm putting it in with my 300 milliliters of tepid water. Just like body temperature water, water that feels warm under the tap but not hot. And this gets kneaded for 10 minutes. With my KitchenAid, I've got it running on about 3. So I'll bring you back in 10 minutes time and show you the finished dough. Almost finished the kneading process, another minute to go. So I just wanted to show you that it has come completely away from the sides and completely cleaned up the bowl. The dough has finished its kneading process, and that's a couple of tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil in this bowl. You want to cover the dough in olive oil, but you also want to cover the sides of the bowl in olive oil. And I find the easiest way to do that is after you've covered the dough. Do that on the bowl, I guess. And now that gets covered and sits here for 90 minutes at least at room temperature. You want it to more than double in size. Cover it with plastic wrap, but I just remembered I've been using plastic wrap on this bowl, and it is a bowl that came with a lid. So I'll see you back here in 90 minutes time. Oh, I don't think I said, I weighed this dough to make it, when it finished here, the finished dough has been weighed, just so that I would know how much weight to use when I divide it into 3 pieces, and it weighed 805 grams, so I'll go with 800 grams and roughly for the size when I divide it into 3 pieces of dough. Well, mine has been rising for 2 hours rather than an hour and a half. I don't think it needed that long, but I took Angel for a walk around the golf course and we just got back. So at this point, deflate it. Just turn it out on the board there. And I calculated that it's roughly 268 grams each for 3 of these, so I'll be happy with anything between 265 and 270. It's not rocket science, hasn't got to be that accurate, but I just don't want one of them to end up being much heavier than the others. So that's only 211 there. That's 273, a little bit too much. Okay, that's 265. I'll be happy with that, I guess. $2.22. $2.71. And this one is $2.66. So they're all relatively the same size, close enough. I would divide these in half to make the size that I made out at the cabin. So I will roughly, that is 272. I would divide that in half, and I will come back and show you what I do with them now. Well, this is a full-size one. And this is the large full-size one cut in two, 136 grams each. Those are the size that I used out at the cabin. This can be frozen or refrigerated. You have to bring it back out to room temperature. If it's been refrigerated, you probably have to bring it back out to room temperature for an hour or two before you use it. But at this point, it's ready to use. You let it rest for 15 minutes, and then you can roll it or stretch it into the size of pizza that you want. So, well, that concludes the little video on pizza in the cabin. I hope you enjoyed it, and hope you'll give this recipe a try and make your own homemade pizza dough. It's an excellent flavor to it. Thank you very much for watching.